All right, as we can see, this meeting is being recorded, everybody. Can I just start by acknowledging the traditional Aboriginal owners of the land and pay my respects to elders past and present and anyone joining us here today. And welcome to all of you. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Lockdown version 3. Just very quickly, Michael Regan, Northern Beaches Mayor. Last year when version 1 of lockdown started, we all had jobs, obviously. The tradies had jobs, that is, and we kept working, which was great. We were all feeling our way as community leaders and doing our bit as council. We pretty much did our support with local businesses and did the things like changing parking arrangements to make it easy for restaurants and cafes to have people come and go. We told rangers to not book people. Yeah, believe it or not, we did that. And we, I think, waived our rent fees, license fees, and like basically took a $30 million hit to the budget supporting it, kept the open space open, kept the beaches open, unlike the eastern suburbs. We did as much proactively as we could. So when version 2 happened, we were able to sort of react quickly, and the lockdown over Christmas wasn't as bad as it could have been, and the community responded really positive, which is great. But then come this one, and the curveball thrown at us on the weekend with tradies being locked down, and I think the statistics are something like 1 in 6 of our local residents, or 1 in 5 of our local residents are tradies. And we, as a council, were speaking, and we just thought, well, we need to reach out and find out what we can do to assist. And I spoke to a few of my tradie mates to find out what we could do, and they were quite trying to be positive and upbeat about it because it was all a bit of a shock, and they were trying to absorb it all. And we knew that the least we could do is start a conversation in the forum and let you know that that you've all got similar questions and the like. So we've now got over 120 businesses, probably over 150 joining us, I understand, registered today. So thank you for doing that, small businesses. We've got a business support hotline, which has helped dozens of people already at council, which is and having one-on-one appointments and directing them to the right area. So please, we'll put the number up in the chat screen for you to have a look at, so you can use that if you need it as well. We're going to have some open questions, so we're going to have some questions. If we've already got dozens of questions already, which we'll go through shortly to get them answered by the panel of experts. My tradie mate said, one of which is on here, John O'Neill, who's also Master Builders Association and HIA as well. So he, I thank you for your contributions and your feedback, mate. That was much appreciated over the weekend. But we've also got a number of other speakers, which I'll quickly list off. We've got Anthony De Cruz from Service New South Wales. He's going to give you a quick overview shortly. We've got Michael Gadiel from Treasury, New South Wales. I think that's where he's from, so he'll give us also an idea of the packages and support that's available. We've got from Mayor Mansfield's accountants, we've got Paul and Nick to answer some of the technical ones. Thanks, guys, for giving up your time. I mentioned John already, who might jump in as well. But I'm now just going to quickly throw to local MP and Minister for Planning and Open Space and goodness knows whatever else, Rob Stokes, to say a few words, and we'll get on with the questions and introductions with the others. Rob.
Thanks, Michael. So, Mayor and everyone, particularly council staff on the line, thank you so much for setting this opportunity up, obviously, we're all in a very difficult position, and my role is to advocate for as quick a return to work as possible. I have arranged to call the Treasurer immediately after this meeting to advise of any particular practical suggestions he can take directly into Crisis Cabinet, which will be meeting tomorrow morning, I understand, to set a pathway as to how to reopen, which the Premier has indicated will be on the 31st of July. So, obviously, whatever we can do to keep sites warm, to stop demobilisation on sites and keep on critical path is obviously crucial. I understand that, and I want to communicate that. I understand. I spoke to the Premier and both the Deputy Premier after they had made and seeking some explanation. It all came down to the risk of mixing on work sites, and they had some evidence to demonstrate the reason why they made that call. In one sense, it's a bit once it's a little bit unnecessary to litigate the reasons why, we are where we are, and I think what we need to do is figure out how to get out of here as quick as we can. I'm very grateful that Michael Gadiel's on the line from Treasury. He will be able to, and I appreciate, people like Michael have been working very, very hard for the community to try and provide as much certainty as possible. And so I want to put that on the record. But Michael will be here specifically to answer any questions in relation to the planning for construction to reopen. And then Anthony Cruz, obviously from Service New South Wales, who'll be able to explain what sort of grant support is available now and for losses that your businesses anticipate in the weeks and months ahead. So with those words, I'll be very, very much outcomes focused. What we have as outcomes, as practical solutions to where we are, I'll be communicating that directly to Treasurer Don Parate once we finish meeting this afternoon. Thanks, Michael.
And thanks, Rob, for joining us too, mate. Thanks for that feedback. Did you want to? I might throw to Anthony de Cruz then instead of Michael first. You've already told us what Michael's going to do, so I might throw to Anthony from Service New South Wales.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. Today, I'm just going to give you a quick update, as the Minister mentioned, to show you what's currently available through the Service New South Wales webpage, and also to provide the support that's needed. There are a lot of things that is unknown, and we have people from Treasury as well. So the most important thing today that I would like to convey is that we have the business concierge team to answer any of the questions that you will have. So I'm just going to very quickly share my screen now so that you can get an idea of what we have and what we have in place at the moment, and also what you can access through the Service New South Wales page. I hope you all can see my screen.
Yes, that's fine, Anthony. We can see it.
Right, great. Thank you. So the most important thing is just to give an update on Service New South Wales for business and what we do in terms of supporting small business. And the most important thing to remember is that we are here to give guidance and support to small businesses of any questions or support that is needed. It's a free service by the state government, and keep you updated as and when any support package is made available or is being released. There's a lot of other things I can take you all through that, but I don't want to take up too much of your time, but to convey the most important message, which is that Service New South Wales should be the portal that all business owners should go to, especially now with for the tradies as well on the construction industry, to access the information that's available on the Service New South Wales page. As you can see, there's a lot of information available. There's small business support grants, the COVID safe check-ins and details, financial support that's available. And the most important thing, as I said, to remember is that as and when any information is released by Treasury and the others, we will have this up on our page. So what you will see at any time on the Service New South Wales page is the information that's being released and when it's released. There's some other support that's come through and which has already been made available as of Monday. There's a few things that are coming out as well over the next week or two. So as and when this gets released or updated, we will make that available on the Service New South Wales webpage. And we want business owners to have the confidence and to be comfortable that they can approach Service New South Wales through the webpage, and which I will show you an easy way which business owners can actually request that support rather than making a call and being on hold for a long time, because there are thousands of calls coming through. So you can actually request a business concierge to reach out and then provide you with a tailored support that is needed for that particular business or the business owner. So very quickly, I'll just go through the next page and give you some of the other support that is being made available. And this information, all these, what you see on the page, is all available through the Service New South Wales webpage. And at any time, if you have any questions in relation to this, you can, by actually registering your interest through the Service New South Wales Business Concierge service, you can actually reach out to the Business Concierge directly, because you will be provided with a direct number rather than go through the contact center number. And you'll be able to talk to them directly and get that information. And as I said, things are changing so fast, so we need to keep everyone updated and up to date with the latest information. And the best way to do that is to reach out to Service New South Wales and ask the question, I mean, whatever it might be. And if you don't know the answer to that, we will get you the answer as soon as possible. I'm not going to go through all the pages that I have, but what I would like to show, and maybe these things will come out in the Q&A, what I would like to show is a page of Service New South Wales where a business owner can actually go and register their interest. And by doing so, the business owner or the Service New South Wales can actually reach out and chat to them, have a conversation and understand what is it that they actually need. I'm not sure if you can see my second page, which is the Service New South Wales COVID page. And if you can see it, this is where the business owners can actually go to. And I will provide the link to the council and to Deb. So Deb can actually share that. By going to this page, you can actually log in and find out what areas you can actually you can register for the, sorry, I think I got the wrong page. I'll just get back to the right page. Sorry about that. Just give me 1 second while I'm finding that page. So basically on the page which I will share with Deb, the idea is a business owner can actually register for the support, and it'll be very easy for a business concierge by selecting just 3 questions or answering 3 questions. You can register your interest with Service New South Wales and for the business concierge to give you a call. So I will share that link with Deb later this afternoon, and Deb will be able to share that with you. And hopefully from there, we will be able to support you in whatever you need down the track. Do you want to go through the questions now, Deb, or you want to?
We'll get to the questions. I'll just quickly introduce Mayor Mansfield, accountants, and Paul and Nick. And you guys must be getting inundated with lots of questions. You're from Brookvale. I know you've got a lot of tradies in the books. Do you want to just quickly introduce yourselves and yeah.
Yeah, okay, so Paul, I'm a director of Mayor Mansfield & Co. We're accountants in Brookvale, deal with mainly small and medium businesses in the trade or construction industry. There's lots of grants and everything available, and they're changing all the time. So at the moment, like with a downturn, kind of good time to look at your business and look at trying to view all your costs and look at your costs, your fixed costs. Also look at how long you can sustain those costs and review some of the costs that you could look at to try and reduce. So phone, internet, insurances, the things that a lot of people just take for granted and continue paying. And then also try and keep up as business owners with all the changes. So follow Manly Business Chambers, follow your accountants on social media, and keep up to date. And yeah, essentially we're here to try and help. We're getting inundated with calls and requests. We've been, we're accountants, we're doing our best to help everyone with that, but it's been tricky with everything because there are things coming out continually and things are changing rapidly. So just take the time to try and review your business, and then yeah, we'll get to the questions shortly.
Thanks. The questions are coming in, which is great. We've got a few already to go with. We'll just quickly ask Michael Gadiel just to give us a quick update. Rob mentioned you were talking about some stuff, and then we'll start answering these questions that we've already got, plus the ones in the chat. So, Michael?
So I just wanted to try and share something. I just want to see if we can find it. That's totally not working. All right, so I might just speak. And so what I wanted to talk about quickly was some of the business grants and the detail of those that are available to the construction industry. So I see there are a lot of questions about what supports are available for businesses from the New South Wales government. And I guess the one I would point most people to is the JobSaver, or supporting jobs, as it was on the presentation from Service. Application, there are expressions of interest being taken for that now on the Service New South Wales website, and applications are expected to open on the 26th of July. So the team over at Service is in a rapid build to get that up and running. That program applies from the 18th of July, so that coincides nicely with, well, unfortunately, but it coincides with the start of the orders affecting the construction industry. And so that is the one that really aligns well with the impacts on the construction industry. And under that JobSaver program, it's businesses with a turnover of between 75,000 and 50 million per annum are eligible. So I guess the key requirement is you have an annual turnover of more than $75,000 and you experience a revenue decline during a 2-week period of the lockdown of more than 30%. Now, given that most construction businesses have been shut down as a result of the orders, you would qualify for that. And the payments that go to the businesses are, for businesses with employees, that business would receive 40% of its weekly payroll, paid fortnightly in arrears, with backdated payments to the 18th of July. The minimum payment to any business would be $1,500 a week, and the maximum payment would be $10,000 a week. And for businesses that don't have employees, so non-employing businesses, if you're a sole trader, you would receive $1,000 a week. And so that, so applications will open on the Service New South Wales website on the 26th of July. Now, there are other grant programs. There's the business grant program, but that opened on the 26th of June and closed out on the 17th of July. So if your business was impacted in that earlier period of the shutdown, then that is available to you. But if you were caught up in this current set of orders, then I would point you to the JobSaver / Saving Jobs program. A condition of receiving that grant is that you undertake to maintain your employee headcount if you have employees. Now, it's within, so what we're trying to do is keep employees and employers together, but it's acceptable provided that you maintain the employment relationship. It is possible to receive the grant to reduce hours. So it's not expected that you would, if there's no work available, you may not be able to pay employees if you have them, and you may have to reduce those hours, including potentially to zero. But we would want to see that was done within the employment relationship, and that there weren't, mass layoffs and terminations. For individuals, there's the COVID-19 disaster payment available from the Commonwealth. And if you're an individual that lives outside the lockdown area, that payment is also available to you, and the cost of that is being met by the New South Wales government, although the Commonwealth is administering the program through Services Australia. So if you are an individual, if you lose 20 or more hours a week, you're entitled to payments of $600 per week. And if you lose between 8 and 20 hours a week, you're entitled to payments of $375 a week. So those applications can be made through the Services Australia website. There's also, for businesses with an annual turnover of less than $75,000, there is a micro business grant program available with similar requirements. So there must be a 30% revenue decline over a 2-week period. And for that grant, you'll need to submit some evidence of the revenue decline, like an accountant's letter or something like that. and that grant will pay you, what is it? It's $1,500 a fortnight, so $750 a week, so $150 a week more than you would receive under the COVID-19 disaster payment. So it's worth highlighting that there really are two streams. There's a COVID-19 disaster payment available from the Commonwealth to individuals. Applications are open now, or there is the New South Wales Business Grant Program. If you're a sole trader, one thing worth knowing is that you can't go for both. You have to decide which one you want. If you go for the COVID-19 disaster payment from the Commonwealth, go for that, but it's a bit less money, $600 a week, or go for the New South Wales Business Grants, which are for a micro grant, $750 a week, or for the JobSaver program for a non-employing business, $1,000 a week. So there are some other things, but I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I prefer to answer questions. On the restarting of the industry, I know that Treasury is engaging with the industry with a view to do that, and the Premier has expressed the view that she would like to see that the construction industry get going again. I think there are questions around whether it would be done the way that Victoria did, with a sort of a 25% capacity and increased social distancing on sites and limited movements between sites, or whether it would be done in a way that would have much more detailed tracking and checking in at various locations so that the contact tracing could kick in, and obviously also things like additional testing on various sites. So that's what's being discussed in those fora, and I know the Treasury, I'm not the lead on that one, but I know that people in Treasury are meeting every day with the representatives of the construction industry, trying to get in place the protocols that would be needed to allow the industry to get going again.
Thanks, Michael. Good idea. Let's get the questions. We've got 33 already, and we've got about a dozen or two already written. So, Kath, do you want to fire away with the first couple of pertinent questions there? You just muted yourself, unfortunately, but...
I'm just going to jump in. Sandro asks, what do you advise employers in the construction industry for their employees to do for the 2-week lockdown? Are they required to take annual leave? Do they advise them to go and apply for the disaster relief payment? And if they get that payment, does that mean that the business forgoes any business support payments and JobSaver? And there's quite a bit of question around the JobSaver. So if one of the panelists could address that.
So that's a great question. Thank you. I probably should have covered it. If you're an employee,
we've just lost you there.
Michael, if you can hear me, can you start that again? Michael, I love online forums, said no one ever. Michael, you're talking to space.
Michael, can you hear us?
Michael Gadiel. Kath, do you want to see if someone can mute him and start him again?
Yeah. Deb, have you got control over the admin there, please?
Yeah, she's doing it. Michael, can you hear us? We can't hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
start again.
So I got to, but I think I said if you're an employee of a employing construction firm and you apply for the individual COVID-19 disaster payment, that doesn't preclude your employer from seeking the business grant. It's really only sole traders that have to make that choice of which pathway to go down. And I guess if you're an employee as well, I'm aware that under the Construction Industry Modern Award, there is provision for pandemic leave of up to 2 weeks and extended by mutual agreement. That leave is unpaid, but unless there is an enterprise agreement that sits over the top, then in most cases, the Construction Industry Award will apply. I know for particular trades, there are awards in place that would be relevant to them, but I would suggest checking those awards and seeing if there is provision for pandemic leave. But I know that the Fair Work Commission got together with union and employer groups last year and many of these provisions were placed into awards. There are also general stand-down provisions in the Workplace Relations Act, and they are available where there is no work available to the workforce. If workers are stood down without work, then they would become immediately eligible for COVID-19 disaster payments. Other options include payment of annual leave, RDOs, long service leave for those in the New South Wales Portable Long Service Leave Fund. You would be able to access that. And there were also amendments made to the Long Service Leave Act last year, allowing leave to be taken with less than 1 month's notice by agreement of the employee and employer, and also allowing long service leave to be taken in shorter periods of 1 or 2 days. It may be in the best interests of individuals to pursue a combination of those. So to reduce hours, take some leave. That will impact your entitlement to COVID-19 disaster payments. So if you're being paid for a certain number of hours, then those are not considered to be hours lost. So remember, there are 2 tiers for the COVID-19 disaster payments: those that lose 20 hours or more, and those that lose between 8 and 20 hours. So you need to think through how that will impact your Commonwealth entitlements to disaster payments if you're an employee. Sorry, a lot of information there. And a lot of that will go up onto the Service New South Wales website, I believe, today, with various links off to resources that will help people with that.
So, Michael, can businesses claim both the New South Wales grants and the Commonwealth disaster payments? Is that what you're saying?
So the Commonwealth disaster payments are available to individuals, not to businesses. New South Wales business grants are available to businesses and not individuals.
Okay.
Sole traders are both an individual and a business and need to choose which pathway they go down.
Got it. Kath, you've got another question from the online chat there?
Yeah, there's a question about the definition of turnover. Is it based on cash or accrual? A few people are asking that, and whether or not we can use either for the accountant's verification letter.
So you can use both cash and accrual, but it needs to align with the form that you report your BAS statements in. So if you report BAS as a cash business, then you need to report cash. If you report for BAS as an accrual business, you need to use accrual. If you don't report BAS, then you'll have the choice. And the turnover concept. So in terms of meeting the turnover test, more or less than $75,000 a year, or more or less than 50 million a year, you would need to submit your income tax assessment from the tax year 1920, so it's a full year tax assessable income. If you're a new business and you don't have a tax assessment from that year, then contact Service and we can find another way.
There seems to be a couple of questions around that. If you had a different business operating or that you can't show that revenue. So what advice could you give for those businesses?
So if that business wasn't operating, you contact Service and we'll use another period of time for which you can submit evidence to demonstrate your turnover. So for a new business that's been operating for, say, less than a year, you might take 1 quarter's revenues and then gross it up to an annualised amount. The preference is obviously that there would be some documentary support, so an accountant's letter or a BAS statement or the like.
If I might just add as well, Michael, once we get that information, we can actually provide that to these businesses. What is the requirement to get over that not having the business running during that period? So that will be on the page as well.
Yeah.
So there's a few comments and questions around can we as employers claim JobSaver whilst the employees claim disaster?
100% yes. So the only crossover is sole traders. So they need to choose which pathway they go down. But employees, if you're a pure employee, you go for the COVID-19 disaster payment. If you're a business employing someone, you can get the business grants, either JobSaver, the micro grant.
Another question that is reoccurring is this small business grant going to be extended to include the construction lockdown to the 30th of July? So quite a few people have asked questions around that period.
So the JobSaver grant commenced on the 18th of, well, the period that it's being paid for commenced on the 18th of July. There is, it will extend for the duration of the lockdown. At the moment, that is the 30th of July. Government will obviously need to make decisions both in terms of the extension of the program beyond that and or the extension of the lockdown beyond that. And that's something that I guess none of us know, but I believe the intention is to maintain that program through the lockdown.
And again, questions around, can I get JobSaver and the grants?
So, good question. So there's a COVID-19 business grant that applied for the period of 26th of June to the 17th of July. If your business was not impacted during that period, you should not apply for it. If it was impacted during that period, 26th of June to 17th of July, you can apply for that. And if you successfully receive that, you can then also apply for JobSaver, which kicks in from the 18th of July. The reason why is that first program for that initial period is fully funded by the New South Wales government, and it's a one-off grant. From the 18th of July, we move to fortnightly payments, and it's a joint New South Wales Commonwealth funded program that is structured differently. Rather than it being a fixed amount, it's based on the 40% of the payroll. You cannot receive the JobSaver grant and the micro business grant. The eligibility criteria are different. One is for businesses of below 75,000 a year turnover. One is for businesses above 75,000 turnover. So I guess my message to you is, if you were impacted from the 18th of July, as was most of the industry, then only apply for the JobSaver grant if you're a business.
There's a few questions coming from a sole trader. And one question from Melissa is, if I'm a sole trader with employees, what can I get? I don't pay myself a wage as an employee, so I'm not eligible for the disaster payment and will not shut down until after the 17th.
So I think if you're a sole trader with employees, your employees can apply for the COVID-19 disaster payment without impacting your capacity. And then you as a sole trader need to decide whether you as an individual apply for the COVID-19 disaster payment or you apply for the business grants. Now, if you've got employees, chances are you're over $75,000 turnover. And so you probably just need to think about your best option, but it's very likely you would get higher payments under the JobSaver program than you would under the COVID-19 disaster payment. The trade-off being that you can't apply for both. If you go down one path, it's going to be difficult to get yourself back on the other. So, and the COVID-19 disaster payment will pay sooner, just simply because the Commonwealth scheme is already in place. Our scheme, the applications will open next Monday, and the payments you would receive under that would be higher. So as an employing business, you would get payments of 40% of payroll, minimum weekly payment of $1,500.
So a question from the fellows at Mayor Mansfield, so thank you. If you've stood down all employees and hence have paid no wages, you'll receive 40% of nothing, and then your business will essentially get no support?
No, it's your pre-impact payroll.
Another question from Karen. Can employees claim the COVID disaster payment and employers top up their salary?
Good question. So if you are being paid by your employer, that will count as hours of work, and it will impact the amount of COVID-19 disaster payment. So yes, you can receive both, and the formula for the COVID-19 disaster payment is based on hours of work lost. So if you work, for example, a 36-hour week, right, and the employer, and you are reduced, say, by 20 hours down to, let's say, 15 hours a week, right? You might still pay them for 15 hours a week and they would still be entitled to the COVID-19 disaster payment because they would have lost 20 hours. so they will get the highest amount. But if say, for example, I paid them for 20 hours a week, so they've lost 16 hours, they've lost less than 20 hours, so they would get the COVID-19 disaster payment, or they could apply for it, but it would be at the lower rate.
Another question from Benny, why are micro businesses being made to wait till the end of the month to get any payment while bigger businesses are getting paid now? Micro businesses have less money and need the money now.
So it's just simply a matter of timing and its services capacity to build the infrastructure that's needed. And it's a more complex build, and it's taking a bit longer, but it should be up and running on the 26th, that is next Monday, alongside the JobSaver.
Another question, is the small business grant going to be extended to include construction lockdown to the 30th, which I think you might have addressed some of that.
So the JobSaver grant will run through to the 30th and potentially beyond.
Do subcontractors count as our business headcount if we keep the same amount of subcontractors on and after the lockdown? And there's another question around casuals as well in that context.
So if a subcontractor is not in an employment relationship, then they're another business. So this is just for employees, it's headcount. So headcount is the number of people employed by you as employees, or casuals of more than 12 months standing.
Can directors of a small trade company who are paid a salary but have had their hours reduced to 0 claim the COVID disaster payment?
Yes.
Okay. Let's have a look. We also have some...
Sorry, Kat.
Sorry, Michael.
Is the small business grant going to be extended to include construction lockdown to the 30th of July?
So just to be clear, there's no small business grant. There's a micro business grant, there's a business grant, and there's JobSaver, right? So the business grant closed out on the 17th of July, right? So I think when people are asking about the small business grant, that's what they're talking about. And if you were not closed down prior to 17th of July, that grant is not for you. The grant for you is JobSaver, for which applications are opening next Monday. So you should apply for that one. And the answer is yes, it is going through to the 30th of July and potentially beyond. But the business grant is closed. So if you were impacted between the period of the 26th and the 17th of July, you can apply for that. But it's a time-limited program because it's been closed out and it's being replaced by the JobSaver program, which provides ongoing payments and potentially larger payments.
What support is there for sole trader carpenters who subcontract out to builders in low-rise construction?
So I guess the point here is that So you're stretching my knowledge of the construction industry, but a business is a business. So it's the business you run. If you subcontract to someone else, that someone else is another business. They're not an employee.
And something about younger apprentices, a 16-year-old working full-time as a first-year billing apprenticeship and in lockdown, as he's under 17, cannot get a payment, falls through the gap. What help is available?
They are entitled to the Commonwealth Youth Allowance.
So a few questions about, will the business grant be reinstated if the lockdown goes longer?
So no, the business grant won't be reinstated because it's closed and it's been replaced by JobSaver, which is a more generous scheme and allows for larger payments, and that will be the scheme that will continue through the lockdown.
Another one.
Sorry,
yeah, sure.
Sorry, there was a couple of comments about governments waiving licence fees. I'm not sure what licence fees governments are charging, but can government do that? That's from Brad. Another one, which I thought you touched on, Michael, earlier, was businesses that started after July 2019. Are they eligible for the COVID business grant? is there an alternative test for those businesses that don't have the comparative information?
That's right, there is. So I did cover that, but again, it says it'll say contact Service New South Wales, and we'll work out another comparison period if you're a new business. So that is covered. But you won't just be able to use the online form, you'll have to call.
Okay, and the other one was, I have 2 employees on temporary visas. Are they eligible for the Job Saver grants?
Honestly, I don't know. So that's something you'll have to check on the Service New South Wales website. Sorry, Services Australia website.
Services Australia,
Apologies.
yes.
Yeah, sorry, I won't put that on you. Yeah, so it's a Commonwealth scheme. So you'll just need to check your eligibility, and that's up on the website.
May I just about the fee rebate that you mentioned, or the rebate for the licensing? There's a $1,500 rebate, which is a lot there now at the Service New South Wales. So tradies and contractors can actually claim that, and that there's no, once you put it, it's set as a digital credit, and you can then use that to renew your licenses and all that.
Thank you. So that was a pre-existing program, but that is available.
Stephanie asks, if we receive 40% of payroll, do we pay our 8 staff 40% of their usual wage, and is this taxable?
So that's a really good question. You could choose to do that, but you're not obligated to. What we're asking is that you maintain employee headcount, but within that, hours could be 40% of their previous hours, or they could be potentially 0. Now, the view is that businesses are going to still have certain fixed costs for equipment and the like, and that those funds could be used to pay wages at a reduced number of hours, or it could be used to meet various costs that the business faces. That's up to the individual business to make the choice. So what was the second part of that question?
Is it taxable? So if we receive the 40% of the
Yeah.
payroll and we pay, say, our 8 staff 40% of their usual wage, is this taxable?
Yeah, good question. So I think there is an agreement with the Commonwealth that the payments will not be taxable for the business. But I suspect once those payments go to employees as wages, they will become taxable for the individual.
Michael?
And there's a few, sorry, I was just going to say, a few people wanting clarification about, so if you, about the standing down of, so if your staff hours are reduced to 0, employing headcount includes stand down and employees receiving disaster payment.
Correct. So as long as you don't terminate staff, you can stand down staff and reduce hours to 0 within the law. So there are provisions in the Fair Work Act that provide for that, provided it's done in a way that's consistent with the Fair Work Act, then they remain employees and they remain on the books as employees.
So the other clarification was, if the worker forgoes 19 hours, they can apply for the full disaster claim $600. If the worker forgoes 20 hours, is the disaster payment reduced?
So if the worker foregoes 20 hours or more, they get the full amount. If they lose 19 hours or less, or more than 8, then they get the lower rate. If they lose 7 hours or less than 8 hours, they don't get anything.
All right.
Trent's asking for clarification. If I earn between 30 and 75,000 as a sole trader, but it's not my primary income, am I able to apply for the micro business support payment?
No, it's got to be your primary income.
They're coming thick and fast, the questions. So,
Mr. Mayor, did you want to read any of the ones that we've had submitted earlier?
I might just, whilst there's questions are coming in, and you can get your head around which ones to ask next, so I just ask a couple of compliance ones. Council will try and answer them for you that we got. I think Louise is online. What is considered an emergency building job? Would securing sites such as roofing or residential renovation be considered an emergency? And if I need to go on site for emergency maintenance, can we get an incident number from Service New South Wales or the police to have to hand if they were questioned about it?
Sorry, I just can't answer that question. You're stretching my My
No,
knowledge.
but I was thinking that Louise Kerr or...
Oh, good. Okay, good. Someone else.
Okay.
Excellent.
Whilst you get your head around and take a breath, because you're answering me at
Yeah.
the moment, Michael.
Yes.
So Michael's show at the moment. So Louise, do you want to answer that one about what's considered an emergency building job? Because we've had a few questions on that.
I think there's clarity in the orders. So if it was to secure the roof as the example, because I don't know, material was flying away, that would be deemed to be emergency. And obviously, I would suggest that people should be talking to New South Wales Police and Council just to let us know that they're about to do the work, so that if we get a complaint, that we can then manage it.
Thanks, Louise. And just for everyone that watching, yeah, we get a lot of complaints, people dobbing everyone in. Don't worry about that. One Rob Stokes might want to take on board is, can the tradies start working again if it's just in the Northern Beaches only, where there's not a hot spot? Good luck on that one, Rob.
Happy to answer that. Sadly, the figures today are we have 6 active cases in the local government area. There are 23 now in Northern Sydney. So the short answer is no. To add a little bit more to what Louise just said, effectively the orders should be quite clear. I think that's great advice about alerting council as to what you're doing, just giving them a call. But effectively, anything that is necessary for the safety of a site is perfectly acceptable. So all of those sorts of things that you'd need to do, the example with the roofing, for example, would clearly be allowable under the orders.
Thanks, Rob. Back to you, Kath, for some more questions on the chat here.
Yeah, there's a few questions just to clarify from Coralie. Did you say a business can choose to get the business grant or the new Job Saver grant, but not both? If they stand down their employees, the employees apply for the disaster payment themselves, but the business can claim the 40% of their pre-shutdown payroll without paying any wages. So this really is to cover their ongoing business expenses. So a few people questioned, is that really the case?
So my answer is yes, that is the case. So one potential thing is that the business might stand down its workforce and use those use the JobSaver payments to cover expenses like equipment rental and other things other costs that might arise. The workers, the employees themselves will be able to access that COVID-19 disaster payment from the Commonwealth. Now, just to clarify the grants, yes, you can apply. There are 2 grants. There's the COVID-19 business grants and there's the JobSaver grants. But if you were shut down after the 18th of July, you should apply for the JobSaver grant and not the business grant. If your business was impacted prior to the 18th of July, then you can apply for both. So the business grant was for the first 3 weeks from the 26th of June through to the 17th of July. If your business suffered a loss for a 2-week period during that time of 30% or more of your turnover, then you can apply for that earlier grant and you can then roll into the JobSaver scheme going forward. But if your business was impacted from this week, from the 18th of July onwards, then you just apply for the JobSaver grant. So it's a timing thing.
Oh, sorry, Michael, you're right. There's quite a bit of discussion about what is available for sole traders. Some are feeling that is, it's just not enough, the 1,000 to 1,500 when their losses were 75,000. So what else is there for sole traders?
So those are the amounts available to sole traders under the current arrangements. So it's a choice of the COVID-19 disaster payments, the micro grant for smaller businesses with a turnover below 75,000, and that's $750 a week. So it's $150 a week more than the COVID-19 disaster payments from the Commonwealth. And then, or if the business has a turnover above 75,000, then it can access that JobSaver program, which for a non-employing business, a sole trader, can get $1,000 a week. Now, you could be, and there was an earlier example, a sole trader with employees, in which case you would be able to access payments of 40% of your pre-impact payroll, or a minimum payment of $1,500 a week. So they're aware that there are lots of different types of businesses. Sole traders have employees, some sole traders have no employees, some are quite large in their scope and operations, and some are quite small. We're not treating sole traders differently to anyone else, but I guess the differences are really around turnover and whether or not you've got employees. Those are the key things, not whether you're a sole trader or a company or a trust or whatever.
Why is the date affected? Why is it that these current 2 weeks aren't covered under the grant as well? Why is it only previous to that?
No, they are covered, but they're covered under the JobSaver. So you'll apply, the applications will open from the 26th of July, and you'll be back paid. You'll be back paid to the 18th of July.
But from what my understanding is, a sole trader, if they were impacted before the 18th of July, can apply for a grant which is up to $15,000.
So the micro businesses, that payment will be available backdated to the 26th of June.
Yeah, but so businesses that were earning over 75,000 that
so
from now,
yes,
can they only now claim the the JobSaver?
Correct. Yes. So the COVID-19 business grants were based on a weekly payment, right? So those were rolled. And now because the time has passed, those grants range between, I think, 7,500 up to 15,000. But there's a weekly. So the 15,000 were getting $5,000 a week. But that was for businesses impacted in the first 3 weeks. We're now rolling into the JobSaver program that kicks in from the 18th of July.
Yeah, but I don't understand how that's fair to businesses who are in the same situation as businesses before, but now they don't have, they're currently not working due to the new restrictions. I don't understand how that's fair that they only get $1,000 now, whereas before they could get $5,000. I just don't see that that's comparable.
Well, actually, you can get up to $15,000 under the JobSaver program. So it just depends on how your business is structured. So a lot of businesses will be getting the $15,000 a week, which is substantially more than the COVID-19 business grants, which are now closed. But many businesses who have been affected for a longer period of time need more support. So I guess if you're a business that's been closed for, there are some businesses now that have been closed for 4 weeks. So the way it's been structured is a periodic payment. And the first 3 weeks were the other program, the COVID-19 business program. The new program is the JobSaver program.
Okay, so but in all fairness, they should end up around the same payment in both ways. Well, in other words, if you're only affected now, you're not going to end up missing out more than what if you'd only been affected in the previous 2 weeks, say.
Well, look, they're broadly comparable programs, but there may be differences, and the differences arise from the fact that this one is jointly developed with the Commonwealth, and they're looking for something that they're going to roll out in other states too. So it doesn't look exactly like the program that New South Wales on its own put together. But I guess there is that principle that a business that is affected for a longer period of time is entitled to more payments because they've got their weekly costs. There's a lot of the hospitality and retail businesses that have been out of work now for approaching a month. Their costs are building up too, and I guess the principle here is that costs occur each week, and so we need to help businesses. We need to align those payments from the government to the weeks to the extended period of time for which a business has been impacted.
Michael, thanks for there's a lot of questions still coming through, a lot of clarification. I'm conscious of everybody's time, but I also don't want everyone to leave like they haven't had an opportunity to get off their chest their questions and have it clarified. Are you able to hang on and stay on for a little bit longer than the prescribed time to answer some of these? Because I know Paul at Mez has got a few questions there that he'd like clarification off the back of what Zarek was just asking then. So perhaps if you've got a bit of additional time, we could get onto that. Paul, did you want to answer that? Ask those questions for clarification?
Yeah, the job saver, that's 10 grand a week, correct? Not 15 maximum.
Sorry, it is maximum 10. I apologise. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
And
Too many
then
numbers.
The comparative period for the job saver.
So it's 2 weeks. Yeah, it's 2 weeks of revenue during the lockdown after the 18th of July. With the equivalent period from 2 years ago.
Sorry, that's starting from the 18th of July, but open from the 26th, but you need a 2-week period. It's only a week.
So that's right. Yeah. So you'll need to, yes. So some businesses will, but there are many businesses that have been affected before the 18th of July. So they'll be able to demonstrate impact. So if you're other industries other than construction, will be able to demonstrate that 2-week period. So a construction industry business, but on the other hand, a construction industry business that's been shut down and it has effectively zero revenue because of the orders, which are in place for 2 weeks, can clearly make that case, right? There's 2 weeks of zero revenue because you're not allowed to do anything.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael. A question about can apprentices that are already getting a government payment support for learning, can they claim the youth payment as well?
I don't know the answer. Sorry, I'm not an expert on the Commonwealth's.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Has anyone asked what about what we do if we weren't in business in July 2019 to have as a comparable figure to apply for the businesses? I think you've answered that one, haven't you?
Yeah, so yes, contact service, and we can find another comparison period that's appropriate.
Yeah, just one with a sole trader. So if you're employing, are you able to claim the job saver as well as the disaster payment?
No. So you have to. Oh, sorry. If you're a sole trader, are you allowed to claim? No, you're not. So you've got to choose which one you go for as a sole trader.
Okay.
Because the Commonwealth is placing as a condition that you're not receiving a business grant as an individual.
All right.
An interesting one here again about, I guess, the apprentices. Should I still pay my first year apprentice, a 19-year-old, a full week, even though he's not working since construction lockdown, or should he apply for payment from the government?
So I really think that's a choice for individuals to make based on the circumstances.
What about sole traders earning over 75,000 being stopped from working for 2 weeks and they will get $2,000 as compared to $15,000? That is not comparable. I think that's a comment.
Yeah. So if a sole trader's got less than $75,000 of income, is that right? Or sorry?
I'm just reading the question back.
Yeah.
So there was a comment, so I was lost it now. Going down the next one.
Sole traders 75.
What was that? Sorry, Paul.
It was if you're over $75,000 turnover without employing anyone, you're going to get $1,000 a week.
Yep.
And if you compare that $1,000 a week to compare with the business grant, they're saying that is not comparable.
Well, I guess it depends on how many weeks we go for.
All right. Ask about cash versus.
So just to be clear, before the 18th, if businesses are applying for that grant that is for before the 18th of July, they won't be able to go for anything after this if the lockdown does continue on. They won't be able to apply for further grants. Just wondering.
So the JobSaver is a rolling grant. So it will you'll apply, and then for as long as the restrictions apply to you and you're losing income, you'll receive fortnightly payments.
And that applies for also businesses that have applied for the grant previous to the July 18th as well. Is that correct?
No, those payments are one-off. So that just applies for the first 3 weeks. That's not a rolling payment.
But what I mean, those businesses then, if they continue to be affected, can also apply for the JobSaver.
Yes, they can. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they can go in and apply for JobSaver. That's right.
Thank you.
So I'm not sure if that's the same one, but James asks about cash versus accrual. That doesn't make sense, as people will be receiving income from previous work done now, but won't have won't have any income in a few weeks, so may not satisfy the 30% downturn now, but will be affected later on.
Yeah, so I guess the impact on your business will be delayed. If you are reporting BAS in cash terms and you're still receiving cash, then you're a cash business. You'll still feel the impact, but that will happen later. And so the point at which, in time at which you'll become eligible will be delayed.
Anthony, a few questions for you. They've contacted Services New South Wales and they haven't had the answer. Spoken to Business Concierge and they said they didn't know either. How are we going to help those people with those gap questions, for want of a better term?
So anything that the Business Concierge couldn't answer, we have got them in our case, and as and when the information gets released, we will be contacting them. So the Business Concierges who have spoken to the business owner would have a callback set, and then they will be calling them back over the week.
So I think it's a really fair question, because there are many, many different cases and lots of questions that we need to get to the bottom of, and we are capturing those, and my team is working pretty hard to address all of those questions and make sure that people are dealt with as fairly as possible within the rules of the scheme. But that said, we are scrambling to get this up and running. I mean, I think we're all feeling the heat, and we didn't expect the construction industry to get locked down this week. It's happened, and I guess we'll do our very best to deal with all the issues that come before us, and we'll try and deal with them as best we can.
Do you know if there is any forethought into maybe opening up or allowing letting off restrictions for people working outdoors, like garden maintenance and things like that, seeing as they are low risk, and also that Melbourne now with their new lockdowns are still allowing those types of industries to stay working? Do you think we'll be taking on any of the sort of advice that they're doing down there, or do you think we'll stay in as tight a lockdown as we currently are?
Zarek, I think that's probably one to throw to Rob, and it's probably not a bad segue, because I was just going to say to Rob, one of the things that just came up here too that you could take back to Crisis Cabinet and the Treasurer is what about, and that gardening one's an excellent point. I think Michael or yourself touched on what Victoria is doing, and you are looking at how that you could use some of those examples like the outdoor workers, the gardeners, and transitioning back into out of this lockdown and with some restrictions, etc. But there was one other one here which comes up a lot about apprentices. What about if they're under 17 who work full time? Can they get any other type of money from government? So that seems like there doesn't appear to be. I don't know if Michael or anyone want to add to that.
So that did come up. It's the youth allowance is the thing that they can go for, and that's the Commonwealth's provision for under 18s that are out of work. I mean, they're likely to be living away from home, and that would qualify them, I think.
All right, and this is the last one, Rob. Whilst you're thinking about your response about what you're taking about the cabinet and stuff, someone's screaming at us to say, answer Stephanie's question, if our comparable BAS is quarterly, i.e. July to September 2019, BAS, how do we prove we were impacted by 30% decline in the 3 weeks, 26 to 17?
So you won't be relying on BAS to demonstrate a decline over a 2-week period. The BAS is for the purposes of determining your payroll, and that your turnover meets the thresholds in terms of the 75,000. The decline in turnover test will be an accountant's letter, or if you're a highly impacted industry, there'll be a lower threshold.
Thanks, Rob. I'm going to throw to you and just give you back up what I think it was Zarek said before about garden and maintenance. A lot of our outdoor staff who are doing a lot of maintenance outdoors at the moment, emergency stuff, as well as some more general stuff around the sort of the parks area and like to keep everyone's using it at the moment. It's quite a turnover. There's a fair bit of I don't know, some nastiness going on and calling them out, saying, why are you effing working and stuff like that. But given it is, as Zarek was pointing out, I think just then, there is that outdoor element, they're working, they're not amongst people. Are they the types of things, and there's a lot of garden maintenance, a lot of other things like that. Is that something that the government's looking at in terms of when they're starting to ease restrictions and people back in? Is that something one of those industries that you can look at in terms of gardening and maintenance, as well as construction sites. I mean, I guess they're the things that people are looking at. If you are going to ease us back into it earlier than the 30th of July, is that something the guys can take on board and even bring forward?
Yes, they're exactly the sorts of things that they are looking at, and I will pass that on once we get off the call this afternoon. I think to the earlier point in relation to what can you do in the meantime, I think the question to ask is it something that can safely be put off? If it's something that can be safely put off, the orders are basically directing do it after the 30th. If not, you can get on with it now. But I think, yes, in terms of outdoor, it basically comes down to the risk of mixing on sites. That's what they are seeking to ensure doesn't happen. Any suggestions in accordance with those, obviously if people are working outdoors by themselves, that minimises the risk. So that's one point I will definitely take back. The other I'd be interested if anyone has any views on once we reopen in relation to, should we look to extend construction hours or those sorts of things so people can make up for lost time? I'd be interested to hear a view here because obviously that's got some consequences for council if we went that way. And the other thing I noted, someone mentioned about licence fees, I'll be raising that as to whether there can be any fee relief. I know we're already doing some payroll tax relief, but fee relief, licence fee relief might be another way.
Thanks, Rob. Does anyone have a strong view about extending hours on work sites or for Rob? They're gone quiet, Rob. Feel free to jump in. Rob, we'll make those...
I'm noting some comments coming up. If I can get them after from Kath after the meeting, I can take them up specifically. So people who are writing in particular thoughts, I'm happy to take them back.
Yeah. We'll definitely grab all those. I just noticed one, I think it was Adrian from Nest Renovations jumped in. I'll let him ask and then I'll wrap it up, and we'll make sure, just for everyone's benefit, we will get all these things captured and we'll get responses, and we'll make sure you get a copy of them, Rob, as well. So you can do that, and Michael and Anthony. So Adrian?
Thanks, Michael. Rob, yeah, look, to your point, I think extending construction hours to similar guys that we had obviously earlier within COVID would be really useful. That certainly allowed a lot of businesses either to work slightly longer hours or potentially Saturdays. There were obviously various rules around the types of work that could happen, so it didn't impact neighbours in residential areas and so on. But I think that sort of thing would certainly allow people to make up for lost time and not bump on the problem longer than we need to.
Okay. To that point, I should say what I'd be anticipating, as you mentioned, the earlier hours. We have allowed for work to continue on Sundays now, but only if it's quiet. Maybe we just go back to what we had last lockdown, which annoyed the neighbours a bit. But I guess if it can help us make up for lost time until Christmas, that is probably a good thing.
Cool. Thanks, Rob.
All right. Thank you. Now I'm going to throw it back to Kath McKenzie, who's in control of the session. I'm going to say a very big thank you to Michael, the star of the show there from Treasury. There's still lots of questions, probably unanswered, to be fair. We want to make sure that we capture all those. I'll ask Kath how we're going to do that so that you're all very clear on that. We're going to make sure this recording is put up so that you guys have got access to it. So everyone's got access to it, not just the speakers. But we do want to capture and answer all these questions. We don't want this to go left unsaid, so to speak. There's more questions to come. But Kath, if I can just say to you, thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Mansfield. Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Thanks, Louise. Thank you, John. Kath, you just want to quickly wrap this up and tell us how we can make sure these questions get answered and they get a direct response.
Sure. Thank you, everybody, for your input. I'm just going to put into the chat our business support email and phone number. So if you'd like to continue the conversation, if we can follow anything up for you, we'd be more than happy to. So it may be easier to either email your questions or make an appointment with our business support team. Again, I can see there's a lot of questions and the information is quite complex. So please do keep in contact. We will have the recording up. We'll also distribute any information as it comes to hand. So we'll go back to everybody via email. That's probably the quickest and best way. Thanks.
Thanks, Kath. And again, Michael, thank you for I think you clarified a lot from what I'm seeing the comments come through. So thank you so much. Sincerely, thank you, Anthony. Much appreciated. And Minister Stokes, thank you. And take that back to Cabinet. But to everyone online, thank you. It's not an easy task to do this. It can be very boring and stuff. And I hope you got a lot out of that. And hopefully we can give you more going forward with this. As Kath said, we'll capture all you. We'll give you our email. But hopefully we can, if you've got other things that's more urgent, just send it to us now. Don't wait around for it. And we'll post as much as this as we can, both on our socials, but in particular our website, and we'll make it easy for you to get there. So just keep an eye out. I know you get bombarded with emails from council, but just keep an eye out for it. We'll make sure we get hold of it for you. So thank you, one and all. It's tough times, but hopefully you can find some positives out of this and can get cracking on some answers for you, some support. So,
Mike, for organising, really appreciate it.
No, thanks, Rob.
Thank everyone. Have a good night.
Well done, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.